Mr. Toom is a maize farmer in North Rift, Kenya. He has, over the last 7 months, watched his field turn from bare ground to a green canopy and now golden brown and ready for harvest. Every moment investing appropriately to realize a good harvest. What may not occur to Mr. Toom immediately is that part of his crop could be among the 30% of grains and cereals that will go to waste. 25% of global food crop is destroyed annually. Significant volumes of grain in developing countries are lost after harvest, aggravating hunger and resulting in the waste of expensive inputs such as fertilizers, irrigation water, and human labor. In 2012, data from the African Post-Harvest Losses Information System indicates that maize in Africa records one of the highest post-harvest losses, that is up to 17%, compared to 10% in wheat and 13% in rice. Maize post-harvest losses are manifested in form of quantity and quality losses. Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, says that 1 out of every 5 kilos of grain produced in sub-Saharan Africa is lost to pests and decay. This lost food is enough to feed 48 million people for 12 months and is valued at around $4 billion, equivalent of half annual grain imports to Africa. Improved maize handling practices and supply chain efficiencies can achieve post-harvest loss reductions, which generate income, improve product quality and safety, and contribute to food and nutritional security. This video will address the best practices that smallholder farmers in Kenya can adopt to avoid these losses. Mr. Edward Osanya has worked closely with farmers in agricultural extension for the last 29 years. As the County Director of Agriculture in Trans Nzoia County, he holds vast experience when it comes to the handling of maize after harvest.
These are losses that farmers rarely look at, and therefore I find it very important that we discuss this area of harvesting maize and handling the maize after harvest.
Before you harvest your maize, there are certain factors you need to consider. Assess and avail all equipment and resources required for harvesting, for example, labor, bags, and means of transport. Clean and repair storage facilities and materials. How do you know that your maize is ready for harvesting?
Well, one is you look at the leaves. If the leaves start turning brown, and in some varieties, when the cobs also droop. And also a farmer can just check on the cobs and see, open up the maize, get out some grains, and check that connection between the cob and the grain, peel it off, and see the gray or the black layer. If there is black layer, that is an indication that maize is mature and can be harvested.
Just before harvesting, cut your maize and stook for the cobs to dry further so that you minimize incidences of rotting and reduce losses. During the actual harvesting, remove the husk cover as you observe the following. Harvest on a sunny day. Use clean and dry harvesting materials to reduce cases of contamination. Do not throw the maize on bare ground to avoid contamination and loss of grains. Transport harvested maize immediately from the field to the store. Ensure the grain is dry enough for shelling to reduce breakages and increase shelling efficiency. What do you think is involved in shelling and grading of maize? Before shelling your maize, sort out and remove pest and disease damaged cobs. In case you are using a mechanical sheller, do proper adjustments to avoid breakages. The quality of your maize will be determined by the following: the foreign matter, broken maize, pest-damaged maize, rotten grains, diseased and discolored maize, and the moisture content. After shelling, the greatest enemy of grain is moisture. Wet grains attract insects and mold. Therefore, the grain must be dried as soon as possible after harvesting. Drying is the reduction of moisture to safe levels for storage, usually 12% to 15.5%. It is one of the key post-harvest operations, since all other operations that follow depend largely on it. While drying your grains, you need to ensure that you observe the following. Use clean and appropriate drying facilities such as tarpaulin or a special drying crib. Make sure the grain layer is spread out thinly. Turn the grains regularly, for example in 1-hour intervals using hands or a rake. This ensures that all parts of the grain are exposed to the sun and air. Keep away animals from the maize to avoid contamination. Cover the grains when it is about to rain and also at night. How do you know that the grain is now dry enough for storage? Although not recommended, some farmers use the biting method. A moisture meter can also be used and is more accurate. Never place grain in direct contact with the soil so as to reduce the cases of fungal contamination. The key objective in any maize grain storage system is to maintain the stored grains in good condition so as to avoid deterioration in both quantity and quality of the grain. During storage, the grain must remain dry and clean. Grain storage can be extended for up to 2 years without any significant reduction in quality and quantity. However, most farmers sell off their maize grains cheaply soon after harvesting due to anticipated losses in storage and later buy food at higher prices. Use of proper storage structures can prolong the storage duration until market prices for grains are favorable. Storage facilities can be made from locally available materials or materials bought from elsewhere, depending on the size and expected use. Mid-range storage structures can accommodate roughly 100 to 1,000 bags of maize. A good storage structure must meet the following requirements. Provide protection from common storage loss agents such as insects, pests, rodents, molds, birds, and man. Maintain an even, cool, and dry storage environment. The maize should be placed on pellets above the floor to avoid cold conditions that may lead to molds. It should not allow re-wetting of grain by either moisture movement or rain. It should offer reasonable protection from thieves, be simple and inexpensive to construct using, where possible, locally available materials and skills. It should also be easy to clean and repair. The choice of storage facility to use will be guided by the amount of your grain and the duration of storage. Farm-level maize storage. Grain is stored here for a short period, say less than 3 months. This could be before transport to the market or collection point of a farmer's organization, for household consumption, or medium to long-term storage, say 3 to 12 months, where farmers keep it for sale until prices are more favorable, or for household consumption. When storing maize for less than 3 months, you can use open weave bags. These could be made from polypropylene, jute or sisal. However, the bags are vulnerable to insect entry and the prevailing moisture conditions. When using these bags, 50 kilograms are favored because of ease of handling. If second-hand bags are used, clean them in advance. Keep the bags in a secure location. Prevent them from making contact with the floor or walls of the house by placing them on pellets made of sticks, wood or stones to keep them at least 12 centimeters above the floor. Grain stored in open weave sacks for periods exceeding 3 months is at risk of significant insect damage and therefore should be mixed with an insecticide.
And especially the so-called larger grain borer. It is called Osama because of the way it devastates the maize. It will eat all the maize and only leave you with a tester. When the maize is over, it will turn to your gunny bags. And if the gunny bags are finished, if you have a wooden bed and you don't use it, maybe you are in town, you'll come and realize that you'll not get any bed.
AIC.